said it early on in the season. I think it was after, I can't remember what game it was, maybe Everton. I don't know why Everton rings a bell. But I remember talking about Arsenal just not having that creative spark, not having enough of those players that just do things off the cuff, that break free from the system at times to make things happen. And we've gone down this road of prioritizing, as you mentioned earlier, the big guys, the physical guys. And that will get you so far, I think, but we're just lacking that little bit of quality, and there's no alternative. We let Smith Rowe go, we let Vieira go, as you say, although I agree with you, he's not the be-all and end-all. I just think last summer was where the problems began for me, rather than it being a big issue, what happened in January. Yeah, of course it is an issue, because I think we had an opportunity and we didn't take it. We got handed a lifeline and we never took it. But in terms of the summer, we let creative players go. We prioritized bringing in sort of transfer fees for certain players. And I don't think we ever thought far enough down the line with regards to replacing some of them. Is that fair to say? Or am I doing it purely from hindsight? And is that in some way unfair?
Hindsight is always useful, isn't it? Because you can see how things have worked or not worked, and then apply what you knew back then to the situation and make an assessment of it. I mean, I'll be completely honest and say that last summer I thought we needed a left back. That's going to sound bizarre because we've got like all these left backs, but I thought we needed one because Zinchenko wasn't the guy and couldn't stay fit. We didn't really know that Lewis Skelly was going to be repurposed into that, or whether or not his development would happen at the pace that would allow us to not sign a left back. So I was like, okay with the Calafiori signing. I think when you let Vieira, Smith Rowe, Nelson, and Nketiah go, whatever you think about those players individually, and the only real attacking replacement is Raheem Sterling.
There you go.
There you go. I genuinely think where we are now goes back to the summer. And I think we got to a situation in January where what we did in the summer made it more or less impossible to fix it properly in January. To fix it properly, we have to save our money for the summer market. Yep. But of course, that doesn't help us in this second part of the season. And I think we have let too much creativity go and not replaced it with anything like either the quality we need or the numbers we need, the numbers of players that we need, you know? So I think I'm pretty sure the Arsenal post-mortem will begin already when they look internally and think about what this team needs and what this squad needs. You know, creativity and attacking threat / firepower are the things that are most obvious to me, and I'm pretty sure everybody listening and watching this, that is where the money has got to go.
Let me ask you this then, because we talk a lot about the players that we need, we don't have, etc., etc. How much of it is down to literally just not having the right personnel, and how much of it, in your opinion, is down to the way that we're set up and coached? Like, is it 50-50? Is it on Arteta to find a way of, you know, creating an environment whereby some of the players that we do have can express themselves a little bit more, or do they simply not have it? Like, where are you at on the scale of Arteta versus the players, in terms of system versus players, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, this has long been a discussion. Whenever Arsenal don't play well or lose games or disappoint, the conversation inevitably turns to Mikel Arteta, and is the system too prescribed? Is it too rigid? Do we lack the inspiration, the spark of quality? You know, I've had this conversation before where, you know, there's times you look at Arsenal and you think, I'd love Alexis Sanchez in this team. You know, the guy who can just sort of do something off the bat and come in and spank one in from 30 yards or beat a few players, and those kinds of things are perfectly valid. No two ways about it. When we win a lot of games and when we, you know, score goals and garner points and challenge for titles, it doesn't seem to be that much of a problem to people.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm a bit 50-50 on it, you know. When it works and it works consistently, we look like a really good team. I don't think we have looked anywhere close to our best at any point this season, though. And that, I think, goes hand in hand with the issues we've already talked about in terms of creativity, or a lack of creativity, maybe a lack of firepower, because, you know, we had Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus had that lovely couple of weeks, didn't he, where he hadn't scored for so long and then all of a sudden found his shooting boots and then unfortunately got really injured. But we've had an issue at centre forward for quite a while, and we've probably had an issue in the wide areas for a little while as well. So I'm sort of on in the middle of it. What I would say is that I understand a manager who's got a style or a philosophy or principles or whatever. I think in order for Mikel Arteta to make his style of football work well, he needs more of the stuff that he has ignored, in inverted commas. He needs more of the Smith Rowe kind of players available to him. It doesn't mean he has to play them all the time, but I think he is short in that area. It sounds counterintuitive that he's got this very precise way of playing, and there is an element of physicality to it and all of those things. But I think in order to get the best out of those players, you need some of the other guys buzzing around and creating a bit of chaos, if that's the right way of putting it. It makes you less predictable. And I think what Arsenal have been this season is predictable. And I think when you look at I said on the blog yesterday that games like Saturdays are Mikel Arteta's kryptonite. The West Ham low block, the Newcastle low block, Aston Villa, the Fulham low block. Those are the games that we've struggled in. And how do you blow those games open? How do you find a way through? You're not going to blunderbuss your way past a five-man defense and four-man midfield. You're going to need to be a bit crafty. You're going to need to be sneaky. You're going to need to have a little extra quality to call on. That's how you do it. And I think that's where we need to look and what we need to prioritize as we go forward and hopefully, rebuild and go again in the summer.
For sure. Couldn't agree with that more. I think there was an episode that I did a few months ago where I talked about us maybe being overcoached. And what I meant by that was that everybody was so sort of in the kind of rhythm of doing exactly what it is that Mikel Arteta wanted them to do. And I'll tell you what's kind of rung the alarm bells for me. And obviously, look, I'm not on the training ground. I don't know exactly what Mikel says to them. None of us do really. But I guess one of the things that really started to alarm me was every time we were dropping points in games, Mikel Arteta would come out and say, yeah, but we completely dominated the game. We had, for instance, 70% of the possession. We had 20 shots. But if only 2 of those shots were on target, and if most of that possession was in the middle third, then actually, did you dominate the game completely, or did they allow you, the opposition, to have the ball in certain areas, prioritize other areas defensively? And when I started to hear that week after week after week, it felt to me like, if that's the message that you're putting across, if you're going in the dressing room after the game and saying, we completely dominated that guy's unlucky, and I don't know that he's saying that. I'm sure he tore into some people as well, knowing Mikel Arteta's character a bit. But if that's the messaging that you're putting across all the time, do our players now start to think that actually just having the ball is enough? And are they willing enough to take the risks and go on the dribbles that you need to unlock defenses? Try something a little bit out of the ordinary. Try something that's a little bit more difficult to pull off, but could have huge results. That's where I kind of started to just worry about that side of things a little bit.